This is Imani here, and this is the second episode of the Milk Jug Mafia series. Today, we're going to be talking about healing, specifically healing while you're trying to co parent with a child or even multiple children if it has taken you this long to recognize that you need to heal. So, first and foremost, I'm a very empathetic person. I am someone that has always given people the benefit of the doubt my entire life, even in my youth. I feel like I have disconnected from my true self up until this point, obviously, since I'm here to give you guys a little bit of advice. But I just want to know, I want you guys to know that I'm speaking from experience. It's not like I'm just like, oh, like, I think this is a good idea. Like, I have lived and breathed healing, especially independently. And I don't think that anyone should have to heal alone, considering all the things I've gone through. And yes, I am stronger because of it now, but knowing what I know now, you should never feel like you have to be alone. And honestly, as a part of asserting yourself in this world, you should be able to ask and demand help as long as you're willing to reciprocate it to others. So, going into the first thing I kind of want to talk about, I don't know if anybody watches Black Mirror. It's a show based in the UK and it's on Netflix. You can watch it in any order. Every episode is different. But there's an episode called Archangel. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically this mother has like fears of losing her daughter and this and that, and she's a single mom. So she goes through all this stuff and puts a chip in her daughter's head where she can pretty much seize everything that she sees, and eventually it goes sour and the daughter ends up stabbing her and running away because she was she was overly worried about the safety of her daughter. I'm not going to call her a control freak. I'm going to say she was overly worried. But the reason I bring this show up is because I feel like this could easily be any parent, and while you may feel like this is coming from a good place, this can end up being very toxic for your child because you have control issues. So first thing I want to say is, in order to heal from anybody, anything, you have to have self-love. Having self-love is so important when it comes to holding yourself accountable, pulling yourself out of bad situations, and really just being able to identify when something else is even wrong with somebody else. If you don't love yourself, you can't really understand, like you can't understand other people, if that makes sense. Like, if you don't even know what you like and the things that you desire in the world, I don't like you can't healing that's the first step in healing. Self is the first step in the healing process. So for me, just to make it simpler, I have healed from a lot of things in my life, but I'm gonna just stick to co-parenting. I had a baby with somebody that I told them I loved them, and I do love them. If you love somebody, that's an action. And first and foremost, love can be given to anybody. You can, when they say love your enemies or love people that don't like you or wish you misery or whatever, that is a very strong, like, selfless thing to do. A lot of people are not capable of that because they try to be stingy and think that their love is worth more than most things. But not understanding love is something that you have to give frivolously. You can't just pick and choose when to give it. You have to have love on your heart in order to give it genuinely and authentically. It is very hard to love people that don't love you back. So I'm not even saying that you have to interact with somebody just because, oh, I'm trying to be the bigger person. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is you have to feel like positivity, love, in order to give it back to the world, even to those that may not want to give it to you. Like, you can't, when you focus on self, you have to fully focus on self. And when you want to do better, you cannot worry about what other people are doing. So me, for co-parenting, me and my child's father, we both loved each other before we had our child. Everything that's happened in the midst of that, regardless, I still feel like he does love me and I do still love him. And that's not like, oh, I'm in love with him, we never breaking up, da 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 da. I love my child's father because I never picture myself having a baby with somebody that I do not love or care for. While we have had our strains, we've had our moments, like there have been moments where I've been disgusted by him, I've hated him, and I've had to look within to heal myself from that because I don't want my child growing up around someone who's bitter and angry about the choices they made. I picked her father. I chose him. I just, like, every choice up till now is not her fault. I decided to have this baby. All of those things I will never, ever, ever make her pay for because it makes absolutely no sense. I have to hold myself accountable for the actions that I've put myself through and the things I've allowed him to do to me. And we're not going to go deep into what we've gone through. I just want to talk about what I had to do to heal myself without waiting on him to do it, because what he has going on is not my business, which is why we're not going to talk about it today. But I pay close attention to what he decides to do for the sake of my child. And when you're healing while co-parenting, you have to care about the other person's well-being. Even if you don't like your other co-parent or whatever, how they are living their life does matter. How they think on a daily basis, what they decide to get up and do, like as far as a schedule or structure goes, you need to watch that closely, because that affects your child. You had a child with this person and you can't be like, F you, this and that, because it didn't work out, or like whatever the case is, you need to let it go. You need to go ahead and focus on what you did wrong to ruin the relationship. Even if it was just, look, I tried my best and I was in love, but now I'm realizing I tolerated all these things for so long and I don't want to do that anymore. And boom, today is the day you decide I'm not doing that anymore. Y'all are trying to make things like way more difficult than they need to be. And honestly, once you know better, immediately you start doing better. And that's that. I could easily beat myself up and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I had this baby and it didn't work out. And I mean, yeah, I wanted to have a family. I had the intentions of growing, creating a family, and I did try all of that before I decided, okay, look, we just can't be together. That's why I feel like my process is different, is because I tried to own up to my mess. So when I first had my child, I'm like, you know what? Okay, this hasn't been going how I wanted to go, but I'm still going to give it a try. I'm going to try to help him like notice his patterns. I'm trying to push him in the right direction, and sometimes it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be coming from this super soft place. Like, even if you're not aggressive or rude, sometimes you have to tell somebody, hey, look, I notice you're doing X, Y, and Z. I don't know if you're thinking about the well-being of our child. And this goes for man or woman. If you're a dad and you're concerned about the mom, it doesn't matter. When you're trying to heal with somebody, as far as co-parenting and all of that, you really have to be like bold enough to say, hey, this is what I get for trying to do this outside. But you really have to be kind of like one of those people who's just like, look, I know we're not together, and I understand that what you're doing may not be my business, but for the sake of our child, I'm interested in your well-being, so I'm just asking you. And if they don't want to tell you, they don't want to tell you. No matter what the case is, if you think they're having a bad day, if they're complaining, if their mood is off, if they're, huffing and puffing, whatever it is, you need to at least make the effort to be like, hey, I'm trying to make sure you're okay, not because I want to get back with you and this and that, but for the sake of the child. Like, if you're sharing the child with the other parent, then look, you really have to care about them. Like, this is such an adult thing to do that a lot of people don't understand. You have to care about the people you have let into your life if you plan on keeping them there. If you are in a situation where your other co-parent is not even fully present, like this, you can't do anything but say, okay, look, this is what I allowed for all this time, and honestly, I gave it all I got. And like, if the other parent isn't even making an effort to be in the child's life, you really can't do anything but give it to God. You have to hold yourself accountable for what you did and give it to God, because honestly, it's no point in trying to heal with somebody who isn't really trying. And it's like, if they're not even letting you in, even worse. But you should not be making efforts to heal or co-parent with a parent that is not like present at all. If it's not what you want it to be, but they're still kind of there, figure it out as you go. Because if I didn't kind of push my child's father, I wouldn't have as much freedom as I have. I could have been one of those moms who was like, look, I'll just do it by myself. Stop doing that to yourself. Stop saying, oh, I'ma deal with it, I'ma figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Why do that? Why do that when you can ask your friend, ask your mom? I promise you, there is somebody close to you that cares enough about you to listen and give you advice, just as a indifferent third party. Like someone who doesn't really know the situation, but they love and trust you, and they're not going to judge you for the choices you make. But also remember, when you are asking other people in your village to help you because you don't have anyone else, you need to be open and raw about the part you played so they can give you effective advice. Because going forward, the only way to heal is to, again, hold yourself accountable. Like, let me think of an example. for me, because there have been things that I've done and I'm just like, you know what, like, okay, this is a good example. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna dive too deep in this, but for a great example, I was with someone previously, and their mother told me, oh, well, you knew he was like that when you met him. And to this day, I still don't really care for her saying that, because as far as women empowerment goes, I feel like if I had a son, I wouldn't sit by idly and watch him treat, like, I'd have to interject. There's no way I'm going to sit up and let somebody I raised treat a woman unfairly, especially a woman I know is good and I have acknowledged that she is a good woman. But his mother wanted to say, oh, yeah, well, you knew he was like that when you met him. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like you said that. But when I started healing, I thought about it. And when I started checking myself and looking in the mirror, I was like, you know what? You was right. He was like that when I met him, and I didn't even realize it. And you know what's crazy now? Now that I realize it and I know better, I don't have to tolerate it anymore. All this you knew. You know what? You're right, I did know. And I can't do anything but control how I move going forward. So going forward, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to anticipate all of his behavior. If I anticipate somebody doing something because they don't plan on changing anytime soon, it's actually perfect for me, because I create my own boundaries with that person without them even knowing about it. When someone doesn't understand, or if they're not ready to heal themselves, it's actually perfect for you. When you finally learn you only have control over yourself and nobody else, I promise you, life gets so much more calming. Like, when you truly put things in God's hands, it's almost like a weight is lifted off your shoulder. And he also understands that you're doing the right thing by separating yourself. I don't believe God pushes people to cause animosity or to start something controversial. I don't think that God wants people to antagonize situations. I think that he wants us to speak up when the moment presents itself. Of course, I don't foresee him just saying, oh, just don't say nothing. But I think that you really have to pick and choose when it's appropriate to express how you're setting boundaries. You can't tell the person right away, okay, look, going forward, I'm gonna just start doing this. No, you just have to start doing it. Because when you notice that people do things without considering you, you have to move like that. When someone treats you bad, you need to see like, oh dang, like, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, like I got played, they used me, they finessed me, figure out like the good parts of what they did to you. You may see it as bad, but think about what somebody did to you, and it's like, you know what, going forward, I'm gonna act like that. Like me, when I date men and I realize men I'm telling you, they're excellent actors. They'll wine and dine you. Oh, they'll send you all these paragraphs. Let's play 20 questions. They'll do all these things to make it seem like they're interested in you. And then when they see you, they want to fill up on you. They want to touch on you. They want to do this. They want to try all these things. And when they realize they can get it from you easy, or they can't get it from you at all, you notice the shift after that first real encounter. The internet has ruined men, and their chivalry is just dead in a lot of ways. But when it comes to stuff like that, you may not realize you got played, but instead of beating yourself up about it, just be like, you know what? Okay. So basically, this man utilized his time. Men are excellent with time management when they want something, when it comes to them thinking with their hormones. That's all I'm gonna say. But you need to do that going forward. You need to treat men like every situation, you need to flip it around. Anything toxic, sad, something you want to beat yourself up over, you need to add that to your list of strengths, because you need to flip that situation into something useful for you. Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I did this and I've been through that. That's cool, you can acknowledge that. But let's think of all the ways of how you're not going to do it again. The same way you can think of like, oh, I went through this, I'm depressed, you can think of solutions. If you're depressed because somebody treated you this way or that way, you deserve to be depressed. You deserve to be sad, because those are your emotions. You didn't realize it at first, but when you did come to that realization, you have this feeling of sadness or guilt or stupidity. You may feel dumb because somebody put you through that, which is fine. But you want to go through those feelings and then quickly put them away. You don't want to be you don't want to be vulnerable for too long. You don't want to feel weak over a person for too long. It is okay to have a genuine human experience with somebody and feel bad because it didn't work out. But going forward, you don't need to keep going through that, and you don't need to keep you need to realize those flags. Stop putting yourself in these predicaments where you have to keep constantly healing yourself for the same thing. Every time you go through something new with somebody, you want it to be a new experience. So when you do heal from it, it's like, oh my gosh, I realized what they put me through, and I'm never going to do that to myself again. Like, every time someone does something to me, I have to evaluate the signs, the words. I have to think about what that person said or did, the actions, their word choice, something leading up to that situation I didn't catch. But now that all these feelings I'm feeling, it's like, okay, I don't want to feel like this again. So what happened? Let's think about what happened. Did he say something in a way to make you feel guilty? Did he say something in a way to make you feel pressured? Like, what is it? Because this can apply to anything. You're a co-parent, a relationship, someone you're just dating. When you're dealing with a guy or a girl and you feel like they pulled the wool over your eyes, or they end up being not who you thought they were, what do you think you should do? You can't do anything but think about why you were attracted to them in the first place. What else can you be doing to, how do I put it? What else can you be doing to sniff those people out early? Like, the first text message, because typically people gonna hit you up online. If someone texts you or comes at you, like, how they initially come at you should be a red flag. I hate to say it, but you should want someone to come at you in a more traditional standpoint. Until you get to know somebody, formalities and all of those things matter. Someone should come at you like it's an interview for a job. When you're dating and dealing with somebody, this needs to be a job. Like, when you're talking about, y'all need to take y'all connections with people more seriously. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. If you're gonna be with somebody, make sure it's a purpose. If you meet somebody for the first time and you're like, okay, and they're saying they want to date you, but you don't know, you can go out on a date. A date is fine. But if you go on a date and you're like, okay, I don't really like you like that, you need to say, hey, I want to be friends. Or, ghosting people at this day and age is just like, it's hard to do now, because it's like, when you're trying to build better relationships, you want to be able to explain to somebody like, hey, like, look, I really, you may like me, but I don't like you. Like, you want to go ahead and skip to the end and let people know, because some of y'all get guilted into dealing with people because they're showing you all this fake love. Make somebody show you why they like you. Someone can talk your head off. Let them. There's nothing wrong with words. Words are lovely. Words are beautiful. But if you notice over time they're not honoring those words, what do you think you should be doing? You should not put all your eggs in one basket if you know that's not what you want. So learn your role in people's lives and always analyze their perception of the world. Like, make sure whatever they like or whatever their beliefs are, they align with yours, or at least make sure they're willing to meet you in the middle. It's totally okay if someone's like, look, I like you, but we don't see eye to eye. Like, and if someone never tells you that, you need to get to that point. You need to learn how to nip things in the bud. Another thing about self and healing and taking care of yourself, you need to know yourself very well, and you need to know your value. So when it's time for you to leave a situation, you need to trust your gut. You need to trust your intuition. You don't need to have somebody bullying you or manipulating you into being cool with them or being whatever they want you to be to them for their own whatever their selfish reasons is. You don't let nobody talk you out of what you think is true. Like, if your body is itching, screaming, burning, telling you no, then it's a no. Even if I'm telling you, if it's me, and I'm always right, if I'm telling you and your body's like, don't listen to her, do not listen to me. If I don't know it well enough, don't listen to me, because I'm honestly not going to speak unless I know better. But always understand people's perception of you. That will save you a lot of time in healing, because a lot of the time it's really just perception. Like, there's plenty of guys now, since I've healed, I've noticed, like, okay, it's really no hard feelings. You just aren't willing to give me what I want. But yet most men are always trying to argue why I need to just settle and deal with their bullshit. I'm finna tell you now, if I know you're not for me, I'm not gonna settle, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, if you want something bad enough, you gonna wait for it. Like, it's just, you gotta have boundaries with yourself. And also, you have to test yourself. You have to put yourself in predicaments where you're just dealing with people and you're learning them and you're looking for cues. Like sometimes you have to date people just to study them. That's why dating is fun. I didn't understand it because I was healing from other things, but now that I know how to date properly, you have to date with a grain of salt. You literally have to put an egg here, an egg there. You have to spread it out. It's like networking. It doesn't matter what people think of you. It's important. Okay, so I had to come inside because it got dark, as you saw. But I wanted to switch gears and talk about anxiety and controlling it. A lot of you guys have anxiety and don't really realize it. Even if it's minor, everybody experiences anxiety because of what it can do to you subconsciously. If you're put in a situation where you're being triggered by something that you don't particularly like, but you don't even really notice it in that moment, so your brain, like the back of your mind, the rest of your body is picking up when your senses are activated anyways. You could be fully focused on your meal or whatever you're eating, whatever you're doing. Subconsciously, if there's something going on around you, your mind picks up on it. So if you feel like your chest is tight, your arms, your body aren't relaxed, like when you really learn how to meditating, you have to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth and learn other breathing techniques to do it successfully. But you also have to relax every muscle in your being, everything, your lips, your teeth shouldn't even be like grinding together. Like everything needs to be completely just let go. Like you think you don't really, like I'm not paying. If you pay attention, like you could feel your toes if you focus on your toes. You could feel your butt if you focus on your butt. I can feel my shoulders if I focus on them. When you have anxiety and you want to calm down from it, you'll notice there's tension in areas of your body you didn't realize it until you decide, hey, I need to calm down. The power is in your mind. Whether we're talking about anxiety, healing, anything, the power to get anything done is your mental state. So when you're focusing on controlling yourself in triggering environments and stuff like that, you need to know that anxiety and other things, like other feelings of being overwhelmed, is your body trying to look for clarity. It's your body trying to understand what's going on. You don't need to fear your anxiety. You don't need to shut down when you feel anxious. You don't need to be like, like when you feel something, feel it. Don't push it down. Don't shove it away. Go ahead and feel it. So when someone asks you later, you can explain why you felt the way you did. If you feel the need to, you can easily just say, I'm human. I had a moment. I felt it. I moved on. It wasn't that deep. I'm not affected by it. If I affected you in any kind of way, I do apologize. I was having a moment. When you heal and you become aware of yourself, you can love yourself easier. You can take care of yourself easier. It's just a lot easier to know when a situation is even worth responding to. Because another thing about getting your anxiety in order is noticing that sometimes some things are not your fault. You may be triggered by something someone's doing and it's like oh my gosh, this is an attack on me. You need to learn to not take things personally. Sometimes people do things and it may be directed towards you, or even what they're doing may directly affect you. That's when you set those boundaries and you get away from them, because obviously you don't deserve to be affected by someone else's bad mood. But if you're going to put yourself around that person, you need to force yourself to control your mood. Don't let somebody else's energy affect yours. That is a weak-minded person's capability. That's only something weak-minded people do. You don't let someone else's emotions affect yours. Now, if you got a friend and she crying and you want to cry, you can be sympathetic. Now, I'm not saying just be a straight up asshole, but I'm saying you don't have to, everything doesn't have to be your problem to bear. Even if it's somebody you care about, even if it doesn't matter who it is, you can care as much as when you're aware of yourself, you care as much as you can allow yourself to. You analyze their situation for what it is and you try to help them in the ways you know how. And if it doesn't work out, separate yourself. That's all you have to do. You don't have to sit up and overwhelm yourself with something that isn't really, like, you sit up worried about something, but when you think about it, it's like, dang, I cared about this person having a bad day for what? Like, yeah, you can care about somebody. I'm going to keep saying that. It's okay to care. It is okay to feel. Sitting in something, marinating in it, wallowing in it, that's like laying in the mud and never rinsing off and taking a bath. Like, you just kind of get up and look at the mud again and you just keep jumping back in because you're like, I don't know what to do from here. It's the same with being depressed. Like, you can know you're depressed, but how do you not know to do something? And yes, if you don't know better, you can't do better. But if you don't at least try, then I need you to find God, because that's my first go-to. If I feel like I just Like if I feel like I'm on the brink, and depression, suicidal thoughts, all that stuff is really linked to the devil. Like seriously, a lot of those feelings, you can pray them away. You can talk those out with somebody. You can open your Bible. There's so many outlets when you feel hopeless, and you may not understand that if you don't know how to interpret those things. And you won't understand it if you don't see the value in it. When you believe in God, this is something that you can't, like, you feel it, but it's not a feeling that you can share with other people. It's just something like when you and someone else are not living in your flesh, you and that person are like, okay, I see you. You may have a different experience with God than they do, but ultimately y'all are living for the same purpose. Y'all are living to live whatever God has in store for you. Like your purpose in life is going to be different from theirs, but because y'all are both serving for the same purpose, the respect is there. When you're dealing with someone, and you don't have to be spiritual, whatever, you can say whatever you are. I'm just speaking loosely because I believe in God and these are my beliefs. But when I spoke earlier about aligning with other people that have the same beliefs as you, this is why it's important. When you're trying to recognize something's not for you, or when you're trying to heal, or when you're trying to deal with a situation that you don't particularly understand and you don't know where to turn, someone that has the same someone that has the same views as you can tell you, okay, did you pray? Did you talk to God? They may be able to give you insight from their perspective and whatever wisdom they've, gathered throughout their life, which is nice. And that's great because that is what a village of friends, family, associates, whatever, that's what these mentors, all these people you meet through your life, that's what they're for. I was just saying the other day on Facebook, people, if you don't ask for help if you don't ask God for help, he's not going to send anybody to help you. He's not you y'all say he doesn't answer you this or that. He does help you. He sends people, he sends angels, he sends guides to sprinkle things into your ear. I have asked God for things, and other people have delivered his messages for me, and they don't know what I've asked God for. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. These relationships that you have with God and the time that you spend with him, it's I can't explain it because your situation is going to be different from mine. But when you know, when you shut down and reflect, and back to the main idea, when you are dealing with self, it all just comes together. When I start speaking about God, I clam up because I feel like my experience with him is just so much different from others. But I feel like we all have a purpose here for him. Like we are all here to love each other. We're all here to understand each other. And that is what I'm speaking about God, because this is how I feel like you should heal. I feel like you should have some type of spiritual relationship with God. My dad taught me that we are spirits living in our flesh. It's flesh fighting the spirit, especially with the way the world is now. And when he first said it, it made sense, but it didn't make enough sense. And this was like in 2019. And I'm like, okay. And I knew God because both of my parents introduced God into my life at a young age. But as I've grown, my relationship with him has changed. And when my dad said spirit fighting the flesh, I'm like, what does that mean? And the more I study God, study what he wants us to do, I realize what my dad was talking about. My dad always says that being boring is better than, indulging in the ways of the world and stuff like that. And I love him so bad, but I don't feel like when you live in your flesh, you don't understand what spirituality is, and you shouldn't be speaking on it. But I don't think spirituality is boring. I don't think diving deep with God is boring, because building a relationship with God, he has taught me that some things are okay, and that a lot of the things and stereotypes in the world, they try to convince us and overwhelm us with what's good and what's right and what's wrong. Nobody should be telling you what's right or wrong. Like, obviously there are some things that's just like, whoa, deal breaker. But when it comes to enjoying yourself, I feel like that's where a lot of people lose themselves at. They're like, I'm this, I'm that, because you have let the world tell you what fun is. If you think going on hikes and camping is fun, then that's what's fun to you. Or like if self-love or care to you is taking yourself out for drinks or getting your nails done, buying a purse. If that's what self-care is to you and you have the means to do that, then cool. But if you let material items cloud your judgment about what's important and what's not, you don't deserve to have material things. There's nothing wrong with having material things, but you don't deserve them if that's all you think is to be desired in this life. You're not grateful for fresh air. Like I'm grateful for a windy day. I'm grateful for a beautiful sunset. I love stretching. I love dancing. I love doing puzzles. Like when it comes to self-love and self-care, people say like I don't know how to do this or that. Me as a mom, I find little moments throughout the day to stay connected to myself. When my child's, busy doing something, or when she sleep, or when a family member decides, oh, I'm gonna play with her for a little while, I use that as okay, I'm gonna go take me a herbal like bath. I'm gonna draw me a nice bath and do that. Or, oh, I'm gonna pull out my board and I'm gonna start a puzzle. Or, oh, I'm gonna try to read more. A lot of people don't read, and I feel like a lot of people are disconnected from the world because everything is so fast now. And I've always been slow, and I feel like I sped up to try to keep up with the world. And now I don't care about the world keeping up with me. I need people to meet me where I'm at. So, as a mother, if you are listening, when you're talking about healing and dealing, y'all love to overwhelm yourselves thinking, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. I'm gonna tell you first things first. If you are keeping your child from their father for whatever reason, and it's not a good enough reason for you, I'm sorry. If it's not a good enough reason, like if your child's not going to be put in a safe,
just don't
I'm sorry.
worry about it.
I said this.
Give me a second to collect my thoughts.
If you are a mother and you feel like you're struggling because you're doing everything by yourself, you need to really sit back and make sure that you are healed and that you're not hindering the father from doing what he needs to do. My child's father wasn't ready to be a dad, and he didn't really know how to be a dad, but over time he has grown into the role. I've coached him through things. I have shown him things. He's asked me, hey, how do I do this or that? Like, you have to be willing to teach a man, especially when you're already putting yourself in a predicament of your child being in a broken home. You do need to give it some effort. So if you feel like you haven't done that, I do need you to try. I want you to at least try to compromise with your child's father. If you feel like it is just so unbelievably hard, you have to go ahead and just eat. Go ahead and eat your mistakes. Go ahead and say, look, this sucks, but this is who I picked, and I just got to deal with this. And that is a source of strength you're going to have to find, because you need to put your child first, ultimately. If you beat yourself up for picking the father you did and all that, you're not going to give as much effort in your work life, your social life, your personal well-being. None of that stuff is going to be fueled properly, because you're like, oh, well, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I didn't ask for this. I tried and I'm the victim. Like, you're not the victim. You played a part in this. Even if it's not, even if you didn't do anything maliciously, even if you weren't the toxic one, the bad one, you still went ahead and did what you did. You had the child, you did whatever. Cool. We're going to deal with that. Say you have a mom, say you have a brother, say whatever. You need to find times throughout the week, throughout the day, whatever, where you can steal moments of joy. Hey, can you hold the baby real quick? I'm gonna step outside and I'm gonna drink a warm cup of tea and just reflect on my day. Like, even if it's just to take a few moments to breathe, whatever you like doing. I remember when I first had my baby, like my best friend or like my sister came, she took me on a ride to Starbucks, fresh. My baby was only like a month old, and I loved my baby so much. I don't think I really thought about my free time that much, because I thoroughly enjoyed being a mother. I wasn't overwhelmed by thinking of another person all day long. Some moms can't fathom the thought of thinking about anybody but themselves, and I think a lot of those moms weren't ready to be mothers in the first place. But I definitely exhausted myself trying to care about her more than myself. There were some days I didn't even want to brush my teeth, but I would literally make sure she would always look better than me, have everything she needed. It was just, that's something any mom will understand what that it's like, to go through postpartum and care about your child's well-being more than yourself. And when it gets to that point, you need to stop, because one day you're going to resent your child, or you're going to resent something because you have to give yourself time. You have to dedicate time to yourself. Nobody is going to do that for you. Your kid didn't ask to be here. Your family didn't. Like, you can make up all the excuses you want in the world about how you're alone and how your back is up against the wall. And and I'm not saying that situation is going to go away overnight. And some people may not even have anybody to really turn to for real. But you really have to self-reflect and look at your own toxic traits, and then go ahead and be like, okay, where can I fit in time for me? Where can even if I don't care what it is. I like journaling. I love listening to music. I feel like music is a good release for emotions that you're feeling, especially when you don't have anybody to talk to. I think making a playlist,
also what you listening to affects your mood, like as far as like the types of words. Like I really think that if you can set apart time to just listen to old R&B songs from the 80s, stuff with more like men that were actually serenading us, men that were like, you're beautiful, I want to sing in the rain to you, I want to, like just whatever, I don't care whatever analogy you want to use. I really feel like it starts with yourself. Like self. I keep saying this because you don't have control over anybody but you. Like it sucks, and I'm not saying things don't suck. Like you can always hit me up, talk to me. I totally get it, and it may not change your situation right now, but you will feel better. But you have to find ways to accommodate yourself. Like I started working at home. I didn't want to put my baby in daycare. I was freaking out about that, but I prayed about it and I was like, God, look, okay, here's where we can meet in the middle. If you can get me a job working at home with no phones, like this would be perfect. I'll make this work, because I was breastfeeding and everything else. There was a whole schedule I had, because I don't care about work. I want to be a wife, and I want somebody to just come get me and say, hey, have all my babies cook for me before I get home. Like I would love to be a housewife. Like I don't know why I'm not. That's just me. Now, if you as a mom and you want to work and you want to get your coins and you want to do this, you want to do that, I respect that. I respect the grind. I totally get that. I feel like whatever you want in this life, you should do your best to work towards it. But I'm telling you, as somebody who at one point was just going to be a totally single, independent parent, and God has shown me, like, look, once I stopped thinking about what my child's father was doing and why he wasn't doing things to support me, and I just started supporting myself and my child on my own, I swear God is my boyfriend right now. Like I want to be upset and worried and wonder, but if I never get married, honestly, God has shown me that hard work and prayer, everything you want, is going to go. Like it's going to work out. And honestly, I'm at a point now where I'm like, shoot, if I have a lot of money, I'm good. I can do whatever I need to do for my child because I have that financial stability. It doesn't really have to. That's why I say you just need a village. You don't have to really worry about healing with a co-parent that isn't going to be there. And I'm really just saying this for the women that are like, look, you saying all this, but like he's not it. Like he's not the one. I just can't. If you feel like if you feel like healing means leaving that person alone, that other parent, there's nothing I can say to that, because you just listened to me when I said, if it's out of your control, let it go. If it is out of your control, let it go. But if your child's parent has had a traumatic childhood or whatever, and you're like, oh, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, you need to care about it at a minimum. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I'm here to heal you, I'm here to be your therapist, I'm here to pat your back through it. You need to understand it just so that way if something happens later on down the line and you need to explain it to your child, it needs to be, look, this is what I did, this is what I tried to do, and this is what we did going forward. So it doesn't matter if you look like the good or the bad guy. One day you're a child of someone. You will understand which parent was the villain and which one was the victim. And you will understand if they just wasn't meant to be together, because some parents are immature then, but then by the time you grow up and you're fully grown, they're a whole different person anyways. And it's just, they'll be like, oh, well, yeah, I was like that, but I'm not like that anymore. That's why I say you need to skip to the end. You need to go ahead and figure out that person's, their toxic traits, what they've been enabled to do by their family, whether it's their mom, their whoever. If they've been enabled to act a certain way for so long, you have to understand, if their family's not making them change, 9 times out of 10, they don't love you enough to change either. And someone can say they love you, but sometimes people love you just so they can manipulate you. Like, and some people do love you and they're toxic. And it's not like they don't know how to love you. Someone can love you because it's like, dang, you make me feel good, but I can't make you feel good back. So I just want you to keep making me feel good. And I don't care what I got to say or do for you to be around, but that's where we're at. And that's why I say, get your anxiety and all the tension that you feel together so your mind is stronger and your intuition is stronger. Because when you are more confident and more sure of yourself, everything is like, okay, like you can be upset, you can absorb it and feel it and deal with it, cool. But I'm telling you, find the time to let it go. Like, excuse me, please find the time to let all that go. Because if you don't, I need y'all to hear me. If you don't, your child's going to suffer later. When we're talking about healing and co-parenting, your child is going to suffer. Now, I say all of this with parenting, but again, this can be applied to anything. Toxic parents, toxic friendships, just dealing with people all together. Even if you feel like you don't have like a lot of friends or a lot of close family, like if you just feel like you don't fit anywhere in the world, I need you to understand that you just need to be more confident. 9 times out of 10, you might be healed, or you might understand like, yeah, this is just the way people, you might be too understanding. You might be too accommodating. If you are too accommodating as a person because you're trying to go around and understand everybody, someone needs to understand you. You need to live uncomfortably so someone will understand you. You need to go ahead and figure out who you are, what you like, and your confidence, and then go out to the world and say, this is me, and just walk chest out. Like, what? Who gonna say something to me? Who gonna say something to you? For what? It's nothing to say when you confident. You shouldn't be an asshole and be confident, but I feel like if you know who you are, nobody can affect your mood. Like if you have confidence, like nobody can ruin your day. Nobody can mess your day up. Like, yeah, you might, oh, I saw a homeless person, I felt bad, but that didn't affect your whole day. You're just like, oh, dang, that's sad. That's going on. That's that. It's a thought that passes. When you learn how to feel your feelings and let them go, everything comes and goes. Or like my grandma always told me, it's okay to cry. Like just get it out your system. And whenever I feel like crying, I just do. Like, and I feel so much better. Even if I'm not over the situation, I do feel better because I went ahead and let those emotions out. And then it gives you time to when you let that cry out, everything else comes in. So now if you're angry, or if you're just upset, or if you want, closure, or whatever you think you want, your brain can go ahead and let all that in, and you can sit back and really think about it. And if you feel like crying again, then maybe you just feel like crying again, but you need to cry until you don't feel like it no more. Because I'm telling you, pushing down emotions, it's not the flex y'all think it is. It's really, really not. But I'm gonna let y'all have that anyway. So the only other thing is, oh, this is very important. Unfortunately, you have people who will try to remind you of how long you have tolerated something, which can be triggering. And I want to get back into that because when you try to heal and you're dealing with other people, you realize that you cared about other people for way too long. And when you go to somebody and you're like, hey, you made me feel this way, you made me feel that way, I'm going back to the conversation earlier, because there's a time and place to let somebody know how they've been making you feel. If you get into a situation where you're trying to tell somebody like, hey, I don't like how you did this or that, but they've been doing it for a long time, but you just build up the courage to say something, you need to be prepared for them to find ways to like make themselves be a victim, or you know, all better. But you need to find ways to I guess you need to create scenarios in your head. You need to anticipate somebody saying something that you already know you're not going to want to hear, and that's when it's like say a guy's been your boyfriend's really inconsiderate and he's never opened the door for you. I'm just going to use something simple. Say he's never opened the door for you and you never said nothing to him about it, but it has bothered you. And you finally built up all this courage over all this time, and there's other problems you have, but this is just one of them. And you just try to scratch the surface and you're like, well, you never opened the door for me. And he's like, well, you could have said something or this or that. And it's like, and sometimes it is the principle. Sometimes you have to be like, look, well, maybe stuff like that I don't want to have to say to you, because I feel like as a man, you should already want to be considerate or whatever. And he may say, well, I'm not like that, and I've never done that from the beginning. Why didn't you say that from the beginning? And that's when you have to say, I'm becoming more aware of myself. I've always liked these things. I've always expected these things from you, but because I have been the empathetic person that I am, I've tried to just show you that I'm accepting of you. I'm over here trying to show you like, oh, I'm brushing things off to show you, hey, I like you and I'm down for whatever. But in that process, I wasn't true to myself and what I wanted and what I value. So today that stops. Cool, I never said nothing. I apologize. I just built up the courage. Hell, I'm just aware of it. You have to these are thoughts I'm thinking if someone were to say something like that to me, I would just blurt out my thoughts. Sometimes what's on your mind right then and there, you do need to go ahead and say it so someone can say something else. And then if it's like, okay, well, like it's always going to be one thing after the other, and you need to say the most God honest raw thing. Yeah. You have to. If you don't, you're not going to win in the argument. And it's not even supposed to be an argument. This is supposed to be a discussion of feelings. Thank you, Melanie. So basically, we're going to wrap this up because she's doing too much. Hi. So basically, if you want to heal, remember the reason why you're healing. The reason I healed, this right here. I grew up in a situation where I was the pawn. I don't want my child to be a pawn between me and her dad. I love her. Her dad loves her. Yeah, I have expectations and wants and needs from him for her. But at the end of the day, I had her, and then I let him come to her birth, let her be in his life, all that. I'm not gonna just be like, oh, give me the baby, oh, give me the baby, oh, this is my baby. Now this is my baby, and I know I go 10 times harder for her than anybody else. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you want to have a village, you need to trust that other people have good intentions until they show you otherwise. Her dad has not shown me, oh, like I don't, it's just not, it's nothing blatant to where it's like, oh my gosh, like it's just bad. There's stuff that's not perfect, but I'm not going to keep my child from her father for my own sanity. When am I going to have time to do what I need to do and explore things I want to explore or live my life if I'm over here trying to be Miss I can do it all? Taking accountability for self is noticing, hey, I need to make time for myself too, or I can't give this younger person this piece of life I brought into this world my full 100%. Like I can't give her 100%. How I'm gonna do that if I'm always trying to exhaust myself? Worrying about myself is the first step in caring about her. Like whether y'all get that or not, you need to put yourself first so your child knows how to do that later. If your child sees you exhausting yourself to take care of everybody, they're gonna think, oh, that's just being a good person. Oh, this is like, they're gonna think that's the normal. I don't want my child to think, oh, my mom's selfish and she does this, she makes time for herself. No, my mommy's happy. I notice when mommy does this, she's happy. Like when she gets older, she's gonna notice what makes me happy, and she's gonna respect my time. She's a toddler right now, so of course right now it's just me, mommy. She doesn't get it, but when I was a kid, I understood what made my mom happy. If I knew my mom was having a bad day, I left her alone. I don't want Melanie to notice, oh, you're having a bad day, or I don't want her to be scared to come to me or be nervous around me because she knows my feelings, but she's too scared to express them to me. I want her to know, mommy's showing me that she knows how to be a human being. She's showing me that she's just like me. My baby should always know that I'm not too good to apologize to her. Like everything should be fully open. A child should not be in an adult's business, but a child should know that this is a safe place. If you're not healed, you're not creating a safe space for your child. If you're not trying to heal yourself and be the best version of yourself, you do not care about your child. You don't care about anybody if you don't heal yourself. I don't care what the situation is. You have to put yourself first in order to be a good person. That is the first step to healing. Put yourself first.